Okay, hi, good evening to you all. I'm Phil Parker, and I'm going to be reading to you from my book there, The British Bureau for the Arcane, the Dark Elf Dynasty file. Forget my finger out of the way, and it's book one of my series. And what I'm really pleased about, and which David sort of prompted, is that book two is actually out on sale today. So it's on the Amazon bookshelves as of today. It seemed a good time to be able to launch it. So this is the opening for the Dark Elf Dynasty file. Trolls, dozen of the vicious bastards. They circled Arlo, watching him, assessing his weaknesses, each one with claws ready to eviscerate, baring fangs eager to rip him apart, probably even eat him. They looked hungry enough, starving even. They were a sorry bunch and ugly as hell. Protruding bony monobrows, oversized jaws, and lank hair covered faces even their mothers probably struggled to love. Like others before them, they likely stowed aboard a supply ship from Norway, where their government kept them on the brink of survival. That's governments for you, all the same. No time for politics, except the Bureau had sent him on a solo mission to deal with two trolls, not a fucking dozen. More cutbacks. Even so, it was his job to stop these creatures from reaching the British mainland. The Shetland Isles represented a bridgehead. Like Macaulay's Horatius at the Bridge, one of his favourite poems as a kid, his mission meant battling almost impossible odds. One of the trolls roared its hatred. Big bastard too, half as tall as Arlo. He would have been an impressive specimen were it not for the emaciated body, the skin that sagged on protruding bones, and a bloated stomach, the telltale sign of malnutrition. Arlo felt more like a vet ready to perform euthanasia to put them out of their misery. Their leader, the big bastard, charged, ready to maul, slash, and bite. The others followed suit. Arlo Austin raised his sword, his best friend, and roared back. There weren't many advantages to being a dark elf. If you thought about it, and you chose not to most of the time, the only bonus was the strength, speed, and agility granted by his bloodline. Not so much an advantage, more a means of staying alive when the odds were against him. Part of what came with the job of being an agent for the British Bureau for the Arcane, a regular part these days. The circle of fangs and claws closed on him. Sword held at right angles to his body, he whirled and twisted, slicing whatever came into range. No attempt to target anything. There wasn't time. Do as much damage as you can, make them question their strategy. Sure enough, those who still could backed off. A handful rolled on the ground, howling in pain, holding stumps of arms, trying to hold in intestines in one case. Two lay dead. Let's talk, he called out. This is stupid. A waste of time. These creatures weren't there to negotiate. In the back of his mind, he wondered what their motives were. Normally, they bolted into the island's interior to feed on sheep. They didn't try to kill people. This was different. The leader roared again. Probably didn't speak English. Trolls didn't say much in his limited experience. They used a guttural language akin to something the Vikings would have recognized. It saddened Arlo to think at this rate, trolls would soon be extinct and he would have played his part in their decimation. The roar was a signal. They rushed him again, this time with speed. No time for spinning around like a child's top. He flung himself at the troll directly in front of him, ducked and rolled, keeping his sword upright. The force of his momentum took him beyond the circle. His victim dropped to his knees, screaming in pain as blood gushed from his femoral artery. By the time the others realized what had happened, he'd already killed three more. Their coordination faltered. They'd expected an easy kill, with their enemy proving so uncooperative. They resorted to fighting him independently. Always a mistake. Hunger, the resulting lack of stamina and strength made them easy targets. With each body, Arlo pleaded, Arlo pleaded for them to stop, to allow him time to hear their grievances. A short while later, heaving in lungfuls of air, sweating despite the cold of the Shetland Isles in June, only the leader remained. Claws raised, small eyes set deep into the skull, watched Arlo with a mixture of hatred and resignation. You don't have to do this, he said. His need to protect his last troll that had fought so bravely drove Arlo to use one of his desperate ploys. He smiled. It did no good. The leader rushed him with a growl. Arlo moved backward, out of range of the claws, pleading for a chance to talk. His efforts were wasted. When the leader leapt into the air to fall on him, the move was obvious. It was suicide. Exposing his stomach and chest, Arlo only had to raise his sword to impale the creature, slicing it open as it fell to the earth, dead. Arlo cleaned troll blood off his sword on the damp grass, a habit he'd learned during his training decades earlier. He surveyed the carnage and shook his head. He sighed as he took out his phone from his trouser pocket and dialed. Sandra? Yeah, mission accomplished. Just the usual cleanup operation. 12 bodies. You're a desperate bunch. The Norwegians are starving, the poor bastards. After polite chit-chat, he'd known Sandra a long time. He remembered to ask about her son. Apparently, he had graduated from university and was considering joining the bureau. Get him to change his mind, Sandra. The lad could do a lot better than chase after things that are struggling to survive. He ended the call before the woman got a chance to berate him for his cynicism. Her golden-haired son wanted to fight for his country, to protect it from the monsters that threatened comfortable lives. Sandra must have filled the lad's head with all kinds of romantic stories as a kid. Irresponsible, in Arlo's opinion, there was no glory to the work, no romance, just the relentlessness of crushing every arcane species into the ground on the tightest of budgets. Bah, he didn't have kids, so what did he know? With another shake of his head, Arlo looked at the bloody corpses surrounding him. They'd provide a banquet for the denizens of the North Sea when the contamination squad arrived. The ocean hid a lot of secrets, as did the earth, as did Arlo Austin. And that's the opening for the British Bureau for the Arcane. Sorry about my throat going there. Thank you, everyone.
So I am SF Henne. I write urban fantasy. So these are my two books that are currently out. I'm going to be reading a portion of The Last Lunar Witch, which is book 1. And we're following Nissa, who is a witch with broken magic. My alchemy professor always told me success is built on commitment and unwavering resolve, which was why I was breaking into the restricted section, though I doubt security would have accepted that as a valid reason. I inched towards the thick metal bars, lusting after the forbidden knowledge locked below. This close to the gate, the air thrummed with latent magic, warded to protect the knowledge within. On instinct, I reached into my pocket and gripped my conduit, an essential tool for any witch. Like most of us, I opted for the traditional one-style conduit to aid in directing and the flow of magic. If I'd been a skilled full-spectrum witch, I might have been able to cast a spell to break in, but sometimes the mundane's options worked just as well. I slid the key into the lock, the metallic clink deafening in the quiet. My breath caught as I stepped inside, and I hurried down the spiral stairs. Orbs of light hung in the air, glowing brighter as I neared the bottom, which descended into the heart of the space. My steps faltered at the sight. I found myself surrounded by towering shelves, their curved forms creating a mesmerizing spiral that stretched into the shadows, each one laden with ancient tomes and scrolls, their secrets bound within their weathered covers. My sense of trepidation mingled with awe. The sheer magnitude of the collection was staggering. What hidden knowledge was trapped down here? What secrets waited to be discovered? My heart skipped a beat, but not with fear. Focus, Nissa. Time was against me. During my shift, I'd rifled through the card catalogue for this section and jotted down a few titles of interest, but the sheer volume of books suggested that many were unlisted or stricken from the catalogue. Just what kind of dangerous secrets did the guild hide down here? And why didn't they have better security? A musty scent wrapped around me, a mixture of aged parchment infused with the faint tang of magic. Twisting around the next shelf, I spotted the first book on my list and flicked through until I found the section devoted to magical binding. These were dangerous potions. In the wrong hands, they could cause great harm. But the only person's magic I wanted to bind was my own. I'd be doing the realm a favor. Worthless. My lip curled as I snapped the book closed and shoved it back. I'd found that formula in the Witch Archive. It was hardly dangerous enough for the Masters Only section. I'd experimented with these potions, and each had failed. The next book had a few formulations I copied out. None provided long-term solutions, but they might buy me some extra time. Frustration gnawed at me as I scoured the last book on my list. I was almost out of time and luck. What if fixing me was impossible? What if I was being foolish and searching for a way to suppress my volatile powers rather than have my connection to magic severed? No. A witch without magic? That was a fate worse than death. Heat flushed through me, my heart hammering as if it could outrun my fear. I fumbled for the talisman in my pocket to suppress my magic. The cold, heavy device was a reassuring weight in my hand, and I trailed my finger over the smooth amethyst at the center. Taking slow, deliberate breaths, I calmed my mind, casting out the ancient thoughts. The magic within me smoldered for a moment before winking out. My shoulders drooped as I inspected the talisman. Its original purpose was to control imprisoned witches and nullify their powers. My brother had acquired it for me through not-so-legal means, and it was my last line of defense against myself. The gem absorbed the magic of the user when it touched their skin. As long as the stone had no cracks, it would continue to function. I squeezed my eyes shut and shook my head. I needed a permanent solution. It was only a matter of time before my powers grew beyond anyone's control. A shiver of magic whispered through the air and I stilled. Had I triggered an alarm? Or had someone realized the keys were missing? I needed to move, fast. Pocketing the talisman, I shoved on my gloves, cursing myself for forgetting to wear them. Crafted from flame-resistant fabric, they would protect anything I was holding, at least for a short while. And here I was, surrounded by priceless and flammable tomes, and I hadn't even taken the most basic precaution. A blue glow darted between the shelves and I froze mid-step. A pair of bright sapphire eyes peered around the corner at me, pointed ears twitching in interest as the cobalt vulpine padded over to me, their bushy tails swishing in excitement. How did you get in here? I hissed. Little fox, you need to stop following me. It was my fault for offering it part of my lunch. The fox had followed me all the way home, but had shooed it away before it entered my building. Since then, I kept seeing blue out of the corner of my eye and knew the fox was stalking me. But why would it come here? My phone vibrated in my pocket, an alarm for shift change. I needed to get out of here. I hurried towards the staircase, but the fox darted between my feet and I almost tripped. What are you doing? I whispered. Was I really talking to a fox? I need to leave before I'm caught. The fox blinked up at me with far too much intelligence behind its eyes, before racing away. They paused, looking back as if waiting for me to follow. I don't have time for this. I started off again. The fox yipped and my heart missed a beat. Could you not? The fox spun in a circle and then darted down another row. I hesitated, debating with myself. They were no ordinary fox. Vulpines had a touch of magic, but that didn't mean I should trust them. A heavy thump made me flinch, and I rushed towards the sound, fearing the fox had been injured. An ancient tome lay sprawled on the ground. The little fox appeared unharmed as they sniffed at the book. Swearing under my breath, I scooped up the tome and tucked it back into the spot on the shelf. I was ready to escape when the fox yipped again. "What?" I hissed. As if the tome had a mind of its own, it slid from its place and tumbled to the ground. What in all the hells? I picked it up again, but when I turned back, there was no open space on the shelf. I checked the one below, but they were full too. A tremor of magic vibrated through my hands. Great, I've awoken a magical tome in the restricted section. My gloved fingers trailed over the letters on the cover, but the words were in an unfamiliar language. Magic pulsed in response to my touch. The sensation almost familiar. The power in my chest stirred. Shit. I jerked back, flinging the book away, but it refused to leave my hand. The magic within the tome stilled, and my power responded in kind. My heart hammering, a frantic beat against my ribs. Whatever magic this book contained, it called to my own, which terrified me even more. But what if it held the answers? Voices echoed in the stairwell. Goddess, they're coming. Footsteps thundered down, and I pressed myself against the shelves. How was I going to get out? Why was I such a useless witch? Fear ignited in my chest, snapping me out of my spiraling thoughts. Heat blazed through me faster than last time. The tome tumbled from my grip as I scrambled for my talisman. No, no, no. Heat scorched my lungs as flames licked my skin. Power built in my chest. A vision of wall of fire pressed in, filling my mind. No, not now. Stumbling away from the flammable shelves, I wrapped my arms around my body and dropped to the ground. The talisman bit into my skin as I squeezed hard, willing it to smother the wild magic that burned through my vein, seared my throat. I shoved at the magic, trying to push it back down, but ignored my command. Why can't I control it? Why do I always fail? Something cracked. Then the heat ebbed, the talisman ice cold in my grip as my body shuddered. The last flicker of magic faded, leaving a hollow feeling in my chest. I squeezed my eyes shut as if that could stop the tears. Why couldn't I be normal? Why was my magic, the supposed divine blessing of Aaliyah, so broken? I hated fearing every day that I might hurt those I cared for. Again. And here I thought I was improving. I hadn't had a flare-up in months, but I'd become too complacent, enjoying the new life in the city, living as if I was a regular magical being. Of course, my magic had decided to put me in my place, latching on to my wild emotions. Useless. A wet nose pressed against my cheek, pulling me back into reality. The mournful eyes of the fox watched me. I'm okay, I whispered, but as I sat up, fear gripped me. The grains of the shattered gem fell through my fingers, the talisman destroyed. A soft pulse of magic emanated from the tome, a soothing vibration that washed over me. It didn't appear to be damaged, and I hugged it against my chest. I was out of options. The talisman had been my last line of protection. And that is where I'll leave it. Again, that was Last Lunar Witch, book 1 of 7 in my urban fantasy series.
Oh, thanks. Time for me. Hello, everyone. I am Ligia DeWitt. I am author of Touch of Fate. This is a fantasy adventure filled with romance, danger, and just the right amount of magic. I'll be reading a scene from the first chapter of the book, but first a quick intro. So this Touch of Fate follows Ryan, a young seer caught between fate and an immortal pirate who threatens her way of life as she knows it. And if you love morally great characters and high stakes as the series progresses, this one's for you. So let's dive in. First dates were my specialty. To be more precise, ending first dates was my specialty. But this one couldn't have been better. Lampuga Bistro had a cozy feeling with its rustic stone walls, floor to ceiling wine racks, and candles on the tables. Soft laughter, silverware clinking, and animated conversations here and there kept a grin on my face. I leaned back in the chair, flicked my long chestnut hair over my shoulder, and gave Kurt a sexy smile. God, I hope it was. Dating rule number 1: never date a coworker or boss. Kurt wasn't technically one. He was a visiting physical therapist for a nursing home, so all was good. Giddy, I sipped the red Zinfandel, enjoying its fruity spice taste. This was going to be a good date. So far, the conversation had run smoothly with Kurt taking over the mic. Ask a guy about his work, and he'd chat non-stop. Never failed. Jesus, Ryan, he said, pushing his round-rimmed glasses up his nose. Kind, attentive, Jimmy-looking with his sleek hair and jeans, Kurt was perfect. I can't believe I talked this much. Your turn. What kind of books do you like? Oh, I love dragons. Give me some cool ones and swords and... He put on a neutral expression, the one he used when talking to the patient's relatives. Damn, almost perfect. You're not into fantasy, are you? I asked. Come on, who didn't like dragons? I was thinking more like Dare to Lead. I could get lost in it for hours. Yes, the last thing I wanted to read was a serious book. Thanks, but no thanks. Our waitress leaned over and set the tapas on the table. Goat cheese, spaghetti squash jam, and seared prawns. This looks so good, I said as I dipped into the goat cheese with a warm piece of bread. So creamy. I knew you loved this. Samantha told me you like to experiment. Samantha, huh? How cute. He asked my friend about me. So what if he didn't like dragons? She wanted me to take you to the laser thing in that place. Laser Dawn. I've been dying to go to the Pacific Science Center. Now that's a place I could get lost in for hours. That or kayaking. He tilted his head and smiled, the way he did when talking to the patients. More than one of the girls in the nursing home had a crush on him. Kayaking sounds great. For a second date, I was about to add, but I kept my mouth shut to avoid jinxing this one and plunged my fork into a prawn. Something soon nearby, something that someone who was going pretty fast, and definitely that little someone wasn't human. I refrained from a groan. How had Precious been able to find me so quickly? Damn it! Wasn't a girl allowed a couple of hours without her pixie guardian? Precious, black tux and shiny shoes matching my little black dress, hovered between me and Kurt, translucent wings flapping. Yuck! That smells awful. Yes, 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 he said in his high, squeaky voice. Dating rule number 2. Pretend the 7-inch pixie was as invisible, and inaudible to you as he was to others. Precious landed beside my plate, sniffing at the jam while narrowing his big orange eyes that matched his tousled hair. He dipped his hand into the goat cheese. I swiftly sank my fork next to the mark he left, then flicked my hand to shoo him. Is there a problem? Kurt leaned forward, frowning. A fly, I blinked innocently, but it's gone. A fly? Kurt placed both hands on the table, looking for the non-existent insect, then gave me a charming smile. When I made this reservation, they asked about dietary requirements, and I did specify in the box. My laugh came out a bit forced, and I promptly shut my mouth. Kearney's all right. I could live with Kearney and guys who believe dragons didn't exist. The only bug in the place grabbed his own throat with both hands, making noises of disgust as he staggered across the table, then fell with open arms next to my wine. To prevent spilling, I grasped the glass with a swift practice motion. Precious flew toward Kurt and jabbed a finger right below my day's short sideburn. At least he didn't use his little sword. Kurt swatted at his cheek. The fly's back! Oh, yeah, a big, very big, damn annoying fly. I hid behind the glass so he wouldn't notice my struggles to refrain from yelling at the bug. I begged him not to bother Kurt before the date, but apparently that was hard to understand for his little pixie brain. I do not like this man, Precious said, jabbing Kurt's cheek again. He looks like a kidnapper. I do not trust him. No, no, no. Yeah, that's new. Kurt, I cooed. Hate flies. This could go on forever. When Precious distrusted someone, nothing deterred him and disaster awaited. He constantly worried about my safety while in the human realm. I lurched across the table to drive Precious away, but instead I brushed Kurt's hand. Kurt seized my hand and squeezed. Oh, shoot. My smile froze, trying not to reflect the horror of the imminent consequence. Dating rule number 3, avoid hand contact at all costs. And no squeezing, banned. Well, damn, too late. The usual cold feeling swirled inside my chest, and I stifled a groan. Couldn't Bridges have waited until I had Liz kiss Kurt? Oh, dear cutie, just one kiss. Was that too much to ask? Kurt moved his lips, but his words vanished along with all sounds, except for a small buzzing in my ears as if I was switching channels in an Asian malfunction TV. Sepia tones splashing my vision like an old movie. Future Kurt walking Puget Park with Samantha, my best friend. They laughed and glanced at each other like a couple in love, a normal couple. Like an out-of-body experience, I watched the vision from afar, helplessly, a knot forming in my throat. Sounds and colors returned with a mild pop, and so did present-day Kurt, who kept talking as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. My expression was the one I practiced lots of time with Precious, a smile replacing the empty gaze for the exact 3 seconds the vision took. Precious alighted on my shoulder and rested his hand on my cheek. You had a vision. We need to review it. Yes, yes, yes. Is everything all right? Kurt looked confused, surely by my lack of response. With a sweet smile so worn that if it were jeans, it would have holes the size of pixies, I reclaimed my hand and rose to my feet. I need a moment, to powder my nose. I hurried among the tables, jaw clenched, while the coal quivered happily as if satisfied after a job well done. Snipped conversations that didn't include sightings of fey creatures reached my ears. A tall, dark-haired man bumped into me. He was freakishly tall, more than 6'2" for sure. Watch where you're going, he threatened in a husky tone, sparkling blue eyes hardening. A black leather jacket filled his well-defined physique, and a scrubby hug a firm jaw. Cold flickered in my chest like an ice cube against my skin, an undesirable effect of the face gift, appearing whenever they felt like it. I'm sorry, I talked alongside her behind my ear. You should be, he said in a sharp tone, then pushed past me with the most arrogant attitude. Jerk, I mumbled loud enough for him to hear. The ladies' room was thankfully empty. Precious hovered above a ceramic vase, sitting on the sink, fist clenched. What's the matter, Bug? I asked. That man outside. I do not like him. No, 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 no. He was around to prove he was quite upset. Gee, we're agreeing. That's a first. I opened one stall and hid inside, followed by the Bug, then let out a deep breath. What did you see? Precious asked, hovering a few inches from my face. I think it's time. So, thank you so much for listening. You can find Touch of Fate on the second book, on the Paradise Plate series, everywhere books are sold online. And the third book is about to come out in a few weeks, so you have time. It's a perfect time to catch up. So happy reading, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. This is David from You Can't See Me. I'm just talking to you. Before we finish up and move on to the page, something that I've been asking the other people that have been reading for us today. What is it about, obviously this is Indie Fantasy Convention, so what is it about indie publishing that attracted you to indie publishing compared to traditional publishing or other routes? And anyone can just jump in.
I guess I'll go. The reason I chose indie was I don't like being told what to do. I wanted to write stories that I could never find. Yes, and I knew that my stories weren't going to be mainstream, but they were the stories that I wanted to tell.
Yeah, very same here. It's keeping control and being able to publish books when I want to, not when somebody else tells me to.
So I'm actually a bit different. I am with a small publisher, but I am looking to have my first book self-published this year because I am a freakishly controlled person, and I don't like not having the control. And I really like doing this, but I am very happy with my small publisher as well. They are behind the series, but I'm also looking forward to be also self-published, completely self-published. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you so much for your stories today. Please check out our authors' websites and other links that we've put in the chat. And thank you so much for joining us at Indie Fantasy Convention today.
Thank you so
for
much.
organising, David.
Thanks, guys.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.